All right, guys. So, Steven Crowder has offended a lot of people. Okay, he's offended a lot of people. Once again, right? Unsurprisingly. Okay, and the reason why is because he went on this little rant about black farmers, right? And how they're getting special treatment and funds in the new stimulus package from President Joe Biden. Okay, so he does a little segment on this that a lot of people are calling racist. Okay, they're saying that they're offended, that this is blatantly racist content from Steven Crowder. Okay, so again, you know, a lot of people got offended and got upset. So I wanted to chime in on this because I think I'm gonna give the best take on this situation in my opinion, right? But before I play this video, I have to give a strong disclaimer for YouTube, right? Because I was on the fence about doing this video. I'm on the fence about it because I have no intentions of posting hate speech, right? That's not my intention. My intention is not to offend anybody. My intention is not to promote any type of hate, and I do not endorse what Crowder is saying. I am simply playing this clip to give the audience context in terms of what was said so I can give my opinion. That's the only intent, right? That's the intent. I'm not trying to post hate speech, right? So I honestly don't know if this video is going to stay up. I have no idea, how YouTube is going to feel about this, right? So I'm going to try to proceed with caution on this video. Okay, guys? So let's go ahead and get into it.
I don't know where you find this many farmers of color, but they did. And 5.2 billion are being allocated exclusively for colored farmers. Farmers of color, farmers of color. Roll the tape.
We begin today's show looking at a major provision in President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that aims to address decades of discrimination against Black, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian American farmers who've historically been excluded from government agricultural programs. The American Rescue Plan sets aside $10.4 billion for agriculture support and allocates about half the funds to farmers of color who are, quote, subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice because of their identity as members of a group, unquote. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights confirmed as long ago as 1965 the U.S. Department of Agriculture discriminated against black farmers, but little was done to address the problem. 100
years ago?
Yeah, most happy about the new policy, these people. So, yeah. I'm gonna buy a plow, man!
I'm gonna plant that corn.
Go get a John Deere. Barack Obama, mother, I'm the president of plowing that ass. You.
All right. So that's the gist of that. So, obviously, that offended a lot of people. A lot of people said that this was blatantly racist. Now, I do believe that original video was removed from YouTube because of the COVID-19 misinformation policy, not because of that segment. So again, YouTube, my intention is not to promote any type of hate speech. I don't endorse what he's saying. But my opinion on this, and I'm going to give you guys two perspectives on this. I'm going to give you a perspective that I personally subscribe to, and I'll give you another perspective that I think is legitimate, but I don't subscribe to, and the reasons why I don't subscribe to it, okay? So my personal opinion, my perspective on this, how do I feel about this? As a black person, I personally do not care. I do not give a damn about these type of segments that play off of racial stereotypes, okay? I don't care. And the reason why, guys, is because my personal life philosophy is that I don't worry about the racist or so-called racist things that people say because I'm too worried about doing me, okay? That's my life philosophy. And I'm also a big believer in freedom of speech. Okay? Freedom of speech. There are comedians out there, right? Black, white, whoever, right? Crowder claims to be a comedian, right? That's his whole thing. He's like, I'm a comedian, right? And because Crowder is a comedian, I really personally, even though he tries to do the political thing too, right? And he tries to give serious political commentary on his show, but because he says he's a comedian, I'm going to take his word for it. And because of that, anything that he does on his show, I really don't ever take serious, right? I don't take any of his political commentary serious because he says he's a comedian. Just like I don't take Trevor Noah's political commentary seriously. I didn't take Jon Stewart's political commentary seriously. If you're a comedian first, that's what you claim. If you want to take up that label, I can't take the speech seriously. Again, while we're talking about comedy, I can tell you, I don't know how many black comedians, white, Asian, whoever, that play off of stereotypes. They all make jokes off of stereotypes. This is not something that's just unique to Steven Crowder. It's not. It's not. What's that little Asian, there's a little Asian lady, pregnant Asian lady that does comedy, right, on Netflix. She plays off racial stereotypes all the time about Asian people. Okay? Right? And other people. Black people, black comedians, they play off racial stereotypes all the time. White comedians, they play off racial stereotypes all the time. That's what comedians do. That's what they do. That's what they do. And Crowder says he's a comedian. But more people take him seriously because his comedy is more political in nature. That's why people take him more seriously than they actually should. Right? But regardless of whether or not, he's serious or he's not serious, whether or not he's a comedian or he's not a comedian, me personally, I believe in free speech. And what he's saying does not harm me. It doesn't stop me from doing anything in my life. It does not have any effect on me. So therefore, I don't care. Right? I don't care. Okay? It's like the same thing with Joy Reid, right? When Joy Reid was talking about how white people want black people just to cook them steaks, that's why Texas reopened. I mean, again, to me, that sounded pretty racist, right? You can classify that as racist, okay? And the difference between Joy Reid and Steven Crowder is that Joy Reid does not claim to be a comedian. And because she doesn't claim to be a comedian, I think that her choice of words might actually be more harmful and dangerous if we're talking about the racial conversation than versus what Crowder is saying, who is, again, claiming to be a comedian. And because he's claiming to be a comedian, I can't take his political opinions seriously, right? And that's why I said I don't care about what he says because he's a comedian first. But with that label, I don't take his political opinion seriously. Now, with Joy Reid, she's not a comedian. She's an actual real political commentator, okay? And she's a real journalist. So I have to take her opinion more seriously. But that doesn't mean I would ever want to cancel her ability to say what she said or cancel Steven Crowder's ability to say what he said. Okay? I don't want to live in a world where a comedian can't make jokes based off of stereotypes. I don't want to live in that type of world. I don't want to live in the type of world where comedians can't do this type of humor, even if you think it's not in good taste, even if it's lowbrow, it's below the belt. I understand why people would think that. At the end of the day, I think that's what makes comedy comedy. People laugh at each other. They laugh at themselves based off these stereotypes. Again, I've seen this done with so many different comedians. But for whatever reason, Crowder, because he's white, the standard for him is so much more higher, right? He can't say stuff like this when, again, we see so much this type of stuff with comedians, right? I mean, think about some of the skits that Dave Chappelle did back in the day, okay? How much he used the N-word, how much of the racial stereotypes he played off of, okay? And I am a lot of that stuff probably wouldn't be acceptable today. But that's what I'm saying. That's what's wrong. I want to have my comedy like that. I like my comedy like that, right? I like comedians being able to play off of stereotypes and to say things that we can all just sit back and laugh at each other like, oh yeah, that's funny. To me, that's what made comedy great. That was the golden age of comedy. Now, that's the first perspective. That's the perspective I subscribe to. The second perspective is a perspective that I think is legitimate, but I personally don't subscribe to it. Okay? The second perspective is this type of content and speech from right-wing YouTubers and media personalities and talking heads is a reason why black people don't want to vote Republican and are afraid to identify with conservatism. Okay? Now, guys, I'm just saying, I'm not saying I've subscribed to this. I personally can overlook all this stuff because I don't get offended. I don't care. I'm a hard person to offend, guys. I really am. I'm very hard to offend because I understand human nature. But there are some people out there. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of black folks out there that are going to see that. And they're going to be like, this is why I can't get on board with conservatism. This is why I can't get on board with the Republican Party. Because a lot of black people, like I've told you, are conservative, right? They tend to be more conservative in terms of lifestyle, religion, culture. It's more conservative at the heart. And they want to embrace conservatism, but they can't because there are certain things that are being held on to by the conservative movement, right? That is going to turn people off. Again, I personally can overlook those things. I personally don't care, right? Because I have more important things to worry about, in my opinion. But there are people that do. Okay? So when Crowder says stuff like this, you got to understand there are consequences, right? There are consequences when you're talking about trying to win elections, when you're talking about trying to get people on your side, when you're talking about trying to reach out to different groups, right? To try to get people on your team. Speech like this is what people are going to point to and say, I can't get on board with this movement because this is the type of stuff that these people say, right? I'm just saying. That's how a lot of people gonna feel. I don't feel that way personally, but there are people that do, right? Conservatives gotta understand. Everybody is not built like me, right? Everybody is not built in a way that it's just like, you know what? I like freedom of speech. You know, he's a comedian. Comedians say stuff like this. It is what it is. Everybody's not built like that, right? And it sucks that society is headed towards a direction where, you know, people get offended by the smallest things. And I do think there's a little bit of a double standard here, considering, again, I bet you if you go on Netflix and you listen to any of these comedians, they're jokes that are probably just as bad as this. Okay? That's the second perspective. Again, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. Now, at the end of the day, you know, like I said about Steven Crowder, right? Like, you know, he says he's a comedian, right? And when you say you're a comedian, when it comes to your political opinions, I can't take your political opinions seriously, right? And again, I've been to a Hodge Twins comedian show, guys. Again, you want to talk about something that's, you know, vulgar and, you know, borderline offensive, you know, to some people, not me, but to some people, a Hodge Twins show, right? Okay. Those guys just let it all out, right? But they're comedians, right? They say, hey, we're comedians. Okay. And that's just kind of how comedy goes. Now, another perspective here, you know, is some people that were commentating on this, you know, were really offended. And they was like, oh, why is YouTube allowing this to be up and blah, 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 blah. And you know, it's just like, why is it that people want to live in a world where people can't make jokes? Stereotypes exist. I'm not saying that is right, but they do exist. And we used to live in a world where we could laugh at our stereotypes without feeling guilty. Okay? I mean, anybody who's black that's watching this, y'all know the things and the stereotypes that black people have in terms of how they think about white people, right? Some of the things that white people do, right? You know, right? Like there are jokes made about, you know, white people and doing things that are particularly dangerous, right? Where black people like, nah, I ain't trying to jump out of a plane. Like, you know, black people don't do that. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, there's certain stereotypes that all communities have in terms of how they think about other communities. And it really comes from a place of, ignorance and tribalism. But in my opinion, tribalism is human nature. Okay? It's human nature. And I'm bringing this up because a lot of people is like, well, this just shows, how, white people don't like when black people, get special privileges and getting reparations. And he's just saying what old white racists think out loud. Well, my response to that is that, again, if you think about the tribalism of human nature, why would you be surprised that white people who don't feel like they have an advantage? And that's the thing that people forget. White people don't feel like they have an advantage in this country. That's what you guys don't understand. They understand it, but they don't. Because the whole theory is that it's implicit. Like it's subconscious. The whole theory is that white racism is subconscious. They don't know. Right? So if you know they don't know, right? That's the theory. Then why are you upset or surprised when white people get upset when black people get special privileges? Because these white people that you claim are privileged don't know they're privileged. That is your theory, right? So yes, I can imagine some white farmers or some white people are going to feel some type of way about black farmers getting special treatment based off skin color. Of course they're going to feel some type of way about it, right? And the reason why they feel some type of way about it is because we are tribal, okay, by nature. They want to preserve themselves, and they see the government giving special privileges to other people that goes in the way of their own self-preservation. That you got to compete against those people, right? That's the way they see it. They're not going to be thinking about, oh, what happened in the 60s? What happened during Jim Crow? They're not going to think about that. Only thing they're thinking about is, how do I compete right now and feed my family? And when I'm competing and trying to feed my family, I don't want the government giving other people special help. I don't care what happened in the past because I'm not privileged. Okay? And again, I'm not saying what Crowder is saying is right. I'm not endorsing what he's saying. I'm not trying to promote any hate speech. I'm not endorsing anything that he's saying. I'm just giving people multiple perspectives on this that I think should be said, right? For any black person that's offended by this, I understand, but I really do challenge people to let this stuff go. Let it go. Understand that human nature is tribal. Accept that it's tribal and do your best to overcome, right? If you worry more about advancing yourself and growing yourself and improving your skill set, capitalism will win, right? Because capitalism is colorblind, right? That's why I'm such a big believer in it. You will overcome. Because at the end of the day, if you provide better goods and services, if you're a more skilled worker, if you can make somebody some money, if you can make yourself some money, you will be fine, right? You will be able to survive. You will have a good life. Racism won't matter so much at that point. Stuff that like this that Steven Crowder says won't matter, right? And what these people think won't matter, right? And that's the route that I take, right? That's the mentality that I have. I ain't worried about what these people say. I ain't worried about what Crowder says. He has the freedom of speech to say what he want to say, okay? And at the end of the day, hey, if that's how he feel, that's how he feel, okay? It is what it is. I'm not going to waste my time being offended because Crowder's a businessman. Crowder knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he did that segment just the same reason he did that election video, right? He did that segment purely for views, purely to appeal to an audience of people that's probably mad that black farmers are getting special treatment and to get people riled up who he knew would probably be offended by it. He just played both sides. That's why he has over 5 million subscribers. That's why he's making 7 figures a year doing what he's doing. He's an excellent businessman. And everybody that's getting offended by it, the only thing that you're doing, you're just helping them out. You're promoting the so-called white supremacy. Because if you didn't get offended by it, if he didn't think you gave a damn about it, he wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it. It'd be a waste of time. He's like, it's not gonna get views. People not gonna get riled up about it. See, that's what happens. The whole point of the media is to play out people's emotions. That's the whole point. When you get overly emotional about things, only thing you're doing is you're playing into exactly what they want. That's what they want. Crowder wanted people to make reaction videos to this. He wanted people to get offended by it because he knew that it would get shared. And the more it gets shared, the more money he makes. And I respect business, right? That's what it is. He's a businessman. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.